We have a high degree of certainty, belief that when you use this model, we will be able to find inefficiencies and make your model more effective.
Well, let's get started.
Okay.
Welcome, Matt, and I'll introduce myself. My name is Ray Jewell, and I'm sitting here with Matt McCarter, who is a longtime friend of mine, and we're going to go over LEAP strategies and why we think our system is the better of what's out there. Uh, One of the things, Matt, I think we should talk about is micro and macro.
Okay.
You know, my doctorate is in macroeconomics, and what people get caught up in is micro thinking instead of macro thinking. They don't look at the big picture because they're so busy working and trying to make a living and trying to put up with the external factors that hit them on a daily basis, and it's really hard for them to understand. So we come along and we say, well, stop thinking micro, start thinking macro, and look at the big picture. One of the things that really interests me in this discussion is if you look at models, and we do have our model we've talked about before. Every time huge amounts of money are at stake, models are built,
Correct.
except in the financial world. You know, if you walk around New York City and see all those buildings, not now, but used to, if you walk around New York City and see all those buildings, they just didn't slap those buildings up there. They built models of them, and they looked for efficiencies and stress points and all that kind of stuff before they built that building. So huge amounts of money are at stake, models are built. The same with bridges. Anytime you have uh, structure and you have a lot of money at stake, they're going to build some kind of structure or model.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So whenever that occurs, they build the model. We build a model. We don't charge anything for the model building. Whenever there's moves in that model, we're able to show them uh, through our simulation process in the model what's going to happen in the future. And anytime they try to make a change or something, then we do get paid a commission, but it's paid by the third party, not by the consumer. So with all that being said, I'm just baffled at why people don't look for structure instead of making decisions on the fly.
Well, I think a lot of it is it's the norm to believe the financial institutions because it's been status quo for many years that if, banks say to do this, do a 15-year or a 30-year mortgage, you should do the 30-year or 15-year mortgage. Okay. I think the other side of it is people don't understand that there are more comprehensive models out there. So a lot of times when I run into people that do investment work, they have a model. It's a Monte Carlo where it'll say if you put $100,000 into a growth mutual fund and let's say it compounds at an 8% rate of return, this is what you're going to have after a certain duration of time. So let's say you're planning for retirement and you put the money in there 30 years later, this is what's going to happen. The problem with it is that that model's not comprehensive enough for you to understand all the pitfalls to avoid while doing it. So a lot of times the models are built just to show you the one side of the story. Like, yes, if you put money into the market and it grows at 7%, then you're going to have this much money out in there. But it doesn't talk about if it's non-tax deferred, the tax consequences that ride up with you as you're compounding that money. If it is tax deferred, it certainly doesn't take into consideration the huge liability at the end of that is going to be paid out. So in other words, if you're sitting in an IRA, You compound that tax deferred, but once you start to access it, the distributions are 100% taxed. So we understand and we project out to those, and then we look at the different erosion factors that most commonly, or most financial advisors don't look at those, because it's the frustrating side of the story. And I think it's
Right.
both sides are looking for an easy way sometimes, just to illustrate, well, if you put money aside, this is what's going to happen. But if you don't take a look at the possibility of a tax law change in the future, and prepare that if it could happen, what are the moves you're going to do? You could put yourself in a situation where your model ends up being less effective and less efficient in later years.
Yeah, I think that people don't, people think it's expensive. So they don't do anything. But yet, when somebody gets to them and gets in their face and starts talking about products, their gut really tells them something's not right, but they go ahead and do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And they end up following what we call the junk drawer concept. And what occurs is they got a lot of hodgepodge stuff they can't track. They don't understand what they're doing. They think they do, and it blows up on them
Mm-hmm.
because they didn't do it right. You know, I'm always reminded of the four rules of the financial institutions. They got to get your money, they got to get it on a systematic and ongoing basis,
Mm-hmm.
hang on to it for as long as possible, and give it back as little as possible.
Correct.
When they allow the financial institutions to continue to play by those rules, they're going to lose, and the financial institutions win. We say, understand those pitfalls and those four rules and go to a structure.
People make financial decisions, and we hit on this. We hit on this on one of our previous conversations. Is people make decisions based on what their need or their lifestyle drives right now. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times, again, looking at the rules that the financial institutions do, is they're looking out for themselves, which in the end helps the customer establish some sort of wealth, some sort of track to go on, but it's not a complete, because they're not looking at the true efficiencies of their dollars. Okay. So what happens is people make their financial decisions. For example, they buy a home and they say, okay, well, I need home insurance. And I might need life insurance to cover the mortgage. But they don't look at, and they may use two different advisors for that. So the property and casualty agent might be talking to them about some risk, but not all the total risk. And the life insurance agent might be just talking to them about what products and death benefit they need. The model, what it does, it allows people to take different financial products in different areas, put them on a model, and then make sure that they work together. So the problem with the junk drawer is some of the products in the junk drawer are what we would utilize. IRAs, Roth IRAs, life insurance,
Yep. Yep.
auto insurance, homeowners insurance. But what
Right.
happens is you go into your filing system and you just start pulling out these files. Well, our model gives you the track that will allow you to organize it and make sure that everything is working efficient. And a lot of times what we teach customers is products work in sync with each other to create multiple coverages, let's say, or multiple outputs. So what we try to do is maximize the amount of protection you get with every dollar, so that anything that happens, because bad things happen to good people every day. So
Yeah.
no matter what happens to them, that's the foundation for their wealth. Okay. But sometimes people don't take the protection side as serious, because the industry doesn't take it as serious. I mean, you have companies saying, hey, listen, you can cater your own insurance needs based on how much money you want to spend for that protection. Well, it should be the reverse. It should be, first of all, what is the amount of protection that you need compared to what you can self-insure, and then make sure that you maximize that protection. Because if you start putting money into another bucket and something happens, then that other bucket becomes a natural output to take care of that risk. So if you don't have total replacement, for example, on your car, and you leave a $10,000 gap, the insurance company will write you a check. You can't bring yourself whole, and then you take your cash to self-absorb it. Okay. What we
Right.
teach
Right.
people to do is analyze those micro, organize it, take that junk drawer. A lot of those products are necessary, but there's got to be a reason behind it. Okay. And also a track that you can hold that product or that plan accountable. And I think that's the big thing that our model gives them. A visual, first of all, the three things it gives them: a visual that they can use so that when we're talking to them, they can have that mess or that picture of that model to look at.
Right.
Secondly, it organizes it so that you know that you're working on the efficiencies and effectiveness, which sometimes takes the emotional side out of it, because you realize that you have the protection here to absorb some risk in the future, okay, or
Right.
currently. And then the third thing, it gives your plan accountability, which makes sure that if your goals and your rules that you establish are being met.
One of the things that's important that we try to uh, uh, convey to people is within this structure, and this takes into consideration everything within this structure, it's impossible to fail.
Correct.
And I know that's a strong statement, but it's impossible to fail when you have this model. And, I talk to people all day long, uh, just regular people visiting them and that kind of stuff. People are scared. $6 trillion is what the country thinks it needs. Now they write these articles. The country's going to tax you up to $6 trillion in taxes. What they don't tell you is the government's collecting 4 trillion. They're collecting a huge amount of money by strong arming people, scaring them half to death, and people are frightened and under stress. So they are reluctant to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, the way
and
I like to explain the model is it breaks it down into three different components: protection, savings, and growth. And then each
yeah,
each box, there's 27 boxes there. Each box is, I look at it kind of
yeah.
like as a filing drawer, is that
Well,
there are different products within that drawer. So if you look at the tax deferred drawer, there are several different products in there that you can pull out and use. So
that's down here. Yeah.
the model gives us the ability to take the vast decisions, products, and solutions that are out there for you to evaluate and be able to plug them in, see how they work on both the micro level. So let's say, for example, we're looking at maximizing the protection for disability. If you can't go to work tomorrow because of an illness or because of an accident, how are you going to replace the income necessary for yourself or your family to continue? There's several different types in there. There's group insurance, there's individual insurance, and it also depends on the working class that you are. But the model allows us to evaluate the risk that's there, okay, and also then look at the products of solutions, or the products that are built for the solution, okay, and then
Right.
evaluate them on both a micro level, pull it back out and evaluate it on how it affects the entire model. So
Right.
a lot of times what we don't talk about, because because of the excitement of the customers as they want to really delve in, is we analyze everything that comes into the household as input of income, okay, whether it's earned or unearned, and then we make sure that it is broken up properly within the model. So everything comes into we used to call the wealth accumulation account, where
Right.
all of the income comes in, and then we account for it very much like people used to do with a budget. So much goes
Right.
to debt, and we evaluate the debt service, and then so much goes to protection, so much goes to savings, and then so much goes to growth. So what it allows people to do is the model allows them to have some sort of confidence that They see every day the money coming into the model, it being dispersed in the model, and then at any time they can project it out on what does this model look like 10 years from now? For example, when my child goes to college, or what does this model look like 30 years from now when I'm going to retire?
Well, you know, one of the things that and a reason I have this model up, this is this is an active one, but it was all I could grab on the fly. But down in one of the grayed out boxes is a Roth IRA. And you did a video. We did a talk about how the government was coming after. What was it? Your
Well, we talked about that the industry will tell you that when you get a job to put the maximum that you can into your 401k. We evaluate that not only as an accumulation tool or a savings tool, but we use it for the reason that it's used, and that's for the tax deduction today and the tax deferred growth. So a lot of times what we teach people to do is retirement planning just doesn't go on employer sponsored plans. Okay. Doesn't just have to happen for your defined contribution plan, which would be a 403B, a 401k. Okay. There are other
right,
vehicles out there. So if you're young and starting your career, you're most likely at your lowest wages that you're going to have, because hopefully you advance into the employment pool and start making more and more money each year, which if you're making $35,000 or $50,000 when you're fresh out of college or your first job, and then 25 years from now you're making 150,000, you're in a total different tax bracket. And most likely
right,
when you reach retirement, you're not going to be at the tax bracket that you took that money out and put it into the 401k. So what we teach people to do is still contribute to your 401k. But the most important thing is make sure you maximize the contributions to get the free money from the employer, because that's an important retention tool that employers use. And then look at other resources while you're eligible to be able to participate in, like a Roth IRA, because the Roth IRA alleviates the tax consequences when you're in retirement, because that money grows
right,
tax deferred. And if you hold it until 59 and a half, it's tax free. So
right.
back to your example in the model is I like when you talk about airplanes and 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 ships. You know, when a shipbuilder builds a ship, they put it they don't build it in a vacuum. They build it
No,
and then they test it on what that ship could see in the future. Okay. So they potentially put it in rough waters, okay, high winds. They test it against, we call them erosion factors, but a
right.
shipbuilder will test it against
Inefficiencies.
inefficiencies, right? Well, the shipbuilder is going to make sure that if that ship has a ton of cargo on it, let's say, $300 million worth of cargo, that if it hits a patch of bad weather going through the Strait of Gibraltar, that it's not going to lose
Right,
its savings, which is the ship's contents. So we take
right,
the same philosophy with the model and say, okay, let's build the model, but now let's test it against what we think is going to happen in your future. And everybody's future is different. Some people
yes,
start,
yes,
and the uniqueness about this is it doesn't matter whether you're 32 years old just starting out. You can take advantage of this model. You might not utilize as many boxes and as many products because your lifestyle doesn't demand that from it, but it builds it so that you can continue to add on to it. Okay. Also, you could start this at 55 years of age. And we're
right,
not saying that
right,
everything somebody did is wrong. We're just saying that we have a high degree of certainty, belief that when you use this model, we will be able to find inefficiencies and make your model more effective. Just because you followed the normal trend of putting money in and maxing out your 401k every year for the last 10 years doesn't mean that you're going to be in a financial world that's going to ruin you in the future. Okay. What we do is we prepare for that a little better than what the normal advisor would do, because we look at things non-traditionally.
right. One of the things that I used, and again, I don't do as much of it as I should be doing, but I would tell people that I won't create any additional cost on you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll show you how to be more efficient with the current dollars you're spending and recover the inefficiencies and put them to growth.
Yes.
So the Dave Ramseys of the world and these other high profile so-called gurus, they have no model, they have no structure, they create cost on people.
Hmm.
Well, if you keep creating cost on people constantly, then they're not going to be able to follow any whatever you're talking about. You've got to show the efficiency, and in 9 times out of 10, you could take efficiencies, recover them, and put them to growth and not create any additional cost just by doing things different and by following this model. Where is it?
Yeah, you got it.
over my over my shoulder.
Yeah.
And this this protection part, there's 9 boxes. Several are grayed out because this is an active case here. I just changed some stuff, but uh, if you have this protection model tightened down, all this is financial offense. This is financial defense. You could do anything you want down here, but if you don't have this taken care of, whatever you do down here, if this causes a problem somewhere like an illness, property damage, car
Lawsuit.
accident, lawsuits, whatever they are, death, where are you going to get the money? They're going to go down in the financial offense area and get it and deplete it because you got an expense up here.
Hmm.
If you can take the same dollars that you're currently spending down here for financial offense and get defense with it,
Hmm.
then you're ahead of the game. And I don't know a financial planner on the planet that talks about that. You take this model and you take the dollars being spent down here to so-called create your retirement and include this in there, and it's possible to do, then you're winning the game and you're
Yeah.
saving money.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, the point I like to make is a lot of people will make blanket financial statements. Okay. And they'll say, okay, if you're looking for, let's say, for example, life insurance, you should buy term or you should buy permanent insurance. And they just make
Yeah,
these blanket, no matter who comes in, it's almost like the same thing about college education. You should put it into a 529 plan. Well, that's not necessarily the best situation for everybody. So is it a wrong statement? Absolutely not. Okay. However, if you look at some of the potential erosion factors that could happen, or what your lifestyle is progressing to, a 529 plan can go against you. Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Because it counts as it makes it harder for you to qualify for financial aid. Okay. Now, it's a great tool to use if you know that you have to pay cash for college. Okay. Because the money will grow tax deferred and you will have it tax free to pay for college. But not everybody has to pay the full boat for college. So a lot of financial guys, and they'll advertise, even financial institutions will advertise these cookie cutter plans that say, hey, listen,
yeah,
if you're a
yeah.
25-year-old and you just had a kid, you should be putting $50 a month into a 529 plan, cookie cutter. Well,
Right.
$50 a month is like throwing a lawn chair off the Titanic as it's gone down, because it's not going to accumulate, no matter what rate of return you get, to pay for the cost of college, which in today's dollars is an average of probably $60,000 a year, depending on if you're looking
Yeah.
for a private institution or a state school. So the issue that I have with the industry is they make these blanket statements. What you should do as a consumer is take in all of the products, stay agnostic to products, and see what products fit your needs today and can potentially help you with needs in the future. Okay.
Simulate them out into the future.
Correct. Because what
What?
happens is if you follow one of these cookie cutter presentations and you do it, and all of a sudden something changes, which we know one thing's going to be constant in our lives, is it's going to change in the future. The tax codes are going to change. The
Yep.
the economy is going to change. It is a constantly evolving and changing environment. Okay.
Yep.
We take
Yep.
that more into consideration than what the average person does because we don't do the cookie cutters. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't follow some of the same product recommendations at that point once we evaluate if it's correct or not. I can tell you when I first put my financial plan onto Leap, I needed a large amount of life insurance to protect my family. I have 3 different types of life insurance products in my plan. Each of them has a duration that it's going to be used, okay? And then it needs to be
Right.
addressed again. And all of them have their purpose. So people hear people say, well, if you buy term and invest the difference, you did it wrong. If you bought
Right.
life insurance, permanent life insurance, you did it wrong. The fact of the matter is both of those products should most likely be in everybody's world at some point, you
Right.
know? So
Uh,
it's not that the financials have the intention to mislead people. It's just they're not doing the absolute complete job. And sometimes that may sound intimidating, but when you deal with seasoned veterans like us that have done it over day, it's a pretty simple formula that we use.
right.
And I think the fact that was when you're asking somebody to make a paradigm shift in the way they think about finances, it's a tough decision, okay?
Right.
Because of all of the non-credible people out there that have tainted the industry, okay, doing
Right.
things the wrong way. When you put it on a model, the beauty of it is you'll be able to see if that product's right for you. And there's no guessing game. So the model gives people confidence once they get into it. I mean, if you look at some of the customers that you've had the beauty of working with, Ray, for 20 years, they can almost preach the same things that we've preached to them their first several years with us because
Right.
it's ingrained in the way they think about the motion of money and the offensive and the defense and offense of why these products are there. And a lot of times when you put reasoning behind a decision, it
Mhm.
allows you to have more comfort in the decision itself.
How about, and that was great what you just said. How about, and this is just a what
Mhm.
if we could take a 401k right now, if people put money in a 401k, they're running the risk of having a car accident, homeowners, problems, life, death, disability, that kind of stuff. And so, how about if you could take a 401k and wrap all those protection devices into it at the same time? Disability lawsuit, medical, uh, uh, life insurance, all that. How about if you could do that all in one umbrella and not have to take individual dollars to do that? Would you end up saving money?
Probably. I
Yeah.
mean, if when we examine the protection side of people's portfolios, we're looking first of all with maximum protection. Okay.
Right.
If people are not looking to make themselves whole after losing something, whether it be to a fire, a theft, or an accident, in the snow, then the plan at some point will have exposure to a storm that might set it back,
Two
lose
losses.
value, or put stress on it. Okay.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
second
Yeah.
thing that we do is we look at ways of how that protection model can protect all assets. We're not just looking at the car insurance for your vehicle coverage. There are other coverages in there like loss of wages, medical insurance, life insurance, or excuse me, death insurance if you were killed in an automobile accident. But just the medical part of in some states is a very key component because that could be a gap before your employer plan or your group plan picks any coverage up. So
Right.
we're evaluating the protection to get your best bang for each dollar, and that's not all the time bringing your coverages down. Sometimes it's increasing your coverage, okay, to make sure that lawsuit protection or whatever we're looking to cover does not affect your ability to put into the 401k. Okay.
Right.
So, like self complete, if you work today and then you're in an automobile accident and you're putting $10,000 a year into your 401k, well, if you can't go to work, nobody's putting into that 401k for you.
Exactly.
So at some point, that's just going to stop growing. We look at ways that if you're saving money, okay, how to continue that savings in the event that an illness or disability comes in. So
But if
what we try to do is bring that perfect product that you said that says, hey, listen, if we could give you this feature or benefit all in one, it would be sold like hotcakes out there. But the fact of the matter, it's not out there. What we do is when putting it into the model and staying agnostic to products, is we try to make sure that you're getting the most efficient, the money that you're spending on these products or putting into these products is getting the maximum efficiencies that you can out of that.
well, it is out there, but it only gets exposed in the model
Mm-hmm.
because the model shows everything. The model is the truth teller. Uh, the model is the verifying tool that tells you whether all this stuff is right or wrong.
Correct.
I could take a financial planner or a person that's been following a financial planner, and they're not all bad. Trust me,
No,
I'm
they're
not.
not.
I'm not bad. But when I put their numbers and I put uh, their data into the model, it shows huge losses and erosions because, back to what you said earlier, they're all operating from this junk drawer concept where they're just piecemealing things.